At the age of 11 years old, young Max Rosenbloom was sent away to the Hawthorne Reform Home for Jewish Boys after he punched a school teacher and knocked out 2 of her teeth.
Oh my God, and he was 11?
11 years old. Jeez. Upon his release 2 years later, he began boxing at the behest of a future Hollywood actor, and so begins the tale of Slapsie Maxie.
This is also Greg's Dr. Seuss book he's working on.
Max was born in New York in 1904 and was raised on the tough streets of, I put Jewish Harlem again. In an effort to stray her son away from the brutality of the New York streets, Max's mother enrolled her son in ballet school. But of course, that only...
I don't want you to get in fights on the street. I'm sending you to ballet school. No one will fight with you.
As we've already figured that out, it made the brutality of the streets even more potent. He frequently had to go at it with bullies who wanted to give him a different moniker, ballerina. More of a title, really.
It's a job description.
It's more of a job description.
Prima ballerina.
At an early age, Max was proving to be a hothead. He was quick to fisticuffs with any Joey or Frankie that stepped up to him, which is how he ended up in reform school after giving his female teacher an invitation to the ground. But reform school had done little
I can meet somebody.
I want you to meet a friend of mine. Reform school had done very little for Max. He quit school in the 3rd grade, saying he chose to, quote, quit school in the 3rd grade because I didn't want to pass my father who was in the 4th. He was a New York street tough, wisecracking and hustling and brawling. Usually that path doesn't lead to success unless you want to mug people in Central Park. But this time, it did lead to success because Max was saved by a local guy and neighborhood pal, future Hollywood man George Raft, who some might remember from his role in the original Scarface. He played Ronaldo. He was in Some Like It Hot. He was Spats Columbo, the bad guy.
Oh, okay.
And
now we're talking.
Yeah, he was in They Drive by Night, which is a film noir classic.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Do you do George Raft? Did we do the same guy?
What is the movie called?
They Drive by Night.
Then I'm talking about a different movie with a very similar title.
What's yours called?
He Walked by Night.
Okay, that's a different movie.
One's a prequel.
It's only one.
Then he got money, and then he drove by night.
He met some friends, and they drove, so they drove by night. Raft suggested to Rosenbloom that he switch from ballerina to boxer. He loved this idea. And guess what? It took. I've read this phrase several times.
This is the original Cinderella Man.
This is Rocky. I've read this phrase several times in different articles, so it must be true. Rosenbloom was released into the custody of George Raft. Another article from 1934 says at the age of 30, so much older, says that Raft purchased half interest in Max's contract, paying $10,000 for Max. So Raft, who was, according to the same article, was the best informed man in Hollywood and boxing. I'm bearing the lead a little bit, but what I'm trying to say is George Raft's involvement in Max isn't a flash of interest. It's not just like a thing.
Yeah,
I met a kid once.
He's like his mentor.
It's his mentor, and he sticks by him through the years and stuff. Max was known in his coming up years for being a really eccentric fighter. He had a really eccentric defensive boxing style, which utilized his ability to dance gracefully. He was very loose on the mat. This came from dancing and prancing to avoid blows. He also returned blows, but not with a fist, but with open hands. In 1923, Damone,
like Bruce Lee.
Yeah, like Bruce Lee, like with a palm. That's what I've read, so I didn't see footage of it or anything. But it said open hands.
With open arms, he would fight.
Come here. In 1923, Damone Runyon, a sports writer, dubbed Rosenbloom as Slapsie Maxie because he would do this.
Oh, okay, yeah. That makes sense.
I imagine from the appearance of slapping opponents. Yeah, his biggest boxing.
Is that allowed?
Not anymore. I'm pretty sure.
He was the first MMA fighter.
Yeah, they don't want to say that. The liberal media doesn't want to say that.
The Protestant media doesn't want you to know.
Doesn't want you to know that he's
Catholic media.
His biggest boxing achievement comes in June of 1930. At the age of 25, Slapsie Maxie won the American version of a lightweight title from Jimmy Slattery after 15 rounds. And in 1932, he won the
Slappery he turned him into.
In 1932, he won the world title with another 15-round decision. He is still regarded by some outliers as one of the best lightweight boxers in history. But besides training for boxing, which he didn't do much of apparently, he also gambled and hoarded around.
More than Manny Pacquiao.
Maxie was very adamant, though, that he never touched a drink. He wanted everyone to know that. But many recall what?
Is it booze we're talking about?
I have a question about this brown drink. Many recall that Maxie was the last to leave dance halls and cafes, even the day of a fight. So, like, he partied a lot. He might not have drank, but he partied a lot. I'm not quite too sure how he landed some of his early roles in Hollywood films, maybe through Raft, but he got some bit parts here and there. And he was no stranger to Los Angeles. His bouts would bring him through stadiums and arenas. He fought at Gilmore Park Arena. One of his last fights was at the Wilmington Bowl, which was one of the harbor area's central stadiums for events. Around 1933, it's said that the Hollywood crowd fell in love with Slapsie Maxie, who had he had comedic chops. He would draw huge laughs for parodying the moves of a punch-drunk fighter. One of his funniest lines he threw around was, "I quit fighting because Joe Louis was afraid to fight me." Yeah, he was afraid he would have killed me. He had his first role in a feature film in 1933 while he was still boxing as a boxer, if I remember correctly.
So he kind of is Dwayne Comer's Rock Johnson.
Kind of,
or,
yeah.
What's his name? John Cena?
Yeah, he's one of those.
Dave Bautista?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, he lands a role as a big tough guy and then suddenly gets roles.
Suddenly he's an alien and he's supporting a pedophile.
Don't start. He lost his title in 1934 and continued fighting for another 5 years. In 1939, he hung up his gloves after a pretty good career. 200 wins with 18 knockouts over 289 matches. Great boxing record.
How do you slap with gloves?
I don't know if they had gloves at the time. They probably did, but
He hung
probably
up his gloves. Did he cut his hands off?
Yeah, he cut his hands. They were different kinds of gloves.
Time to hang him up. That's how it used to be before gloves were invented. But it makes you really good with a lightsaber.
He had a great boxing record. And with that great boxing record, he also had a flattened nose and cauliflower ears.
Ugh.
And old age was peeking over the hill at him. And it was time to look
Not a good look.
Not a good look for, unless you're playing a boxer in all your movies. Yeah. It was time to look for another career path. With the help, of course, of another Hollywood figure. And what a figure. He'd been pokering his flattened nose around Hollywood for some time. He had a couple roles in small movies. But in 1937, 2 years after his boxing retirement, he had been asked by actress Carole Lombard to show her how to box, claiming that she wanted her punch her future husband Clark Gable when she felt like he deserved it. I could think of a point where he deserved it, when he sexually assaulted Loretta Young. Who remembers things like that? Come on. Who remembers that Kirk Douglas apparently attacked Natalie Wood? Who remembers stuff like that?
Really?
I read it.
Oh, God.
I don't know if it's true, but I mean, I read it.
How many people attacked her?
I mean, one guy killed her.
Yeah, well, I think 2 guys killed her and 1 tried.
In exchange for the boxing lessons, Lombard put Slapsie Maxie in her film Nothing Sacred. And according to the things I've read, he's excellent in the movie. And the tough guy roles just kept coming. He played Big Julie in Guys and Dolls later in his career.
Really?
He was also in a movie called The Louisiana Purchase.
He played Louisiana.
Yeah, he was a big guy. Abbott and Costello Meet the Keystone Cops, which is my favorite multiverse. And he was in The Beat Generation with Vampire and Nermi. Bit parts. Nothing like he wasn't like a star of it, but you'd see him around saying something like, I'm a boxer.
Want to hear my line about Joe Lewis?
He quickly found his gimmick.
Joe Frazier, whichever one.
It was Joe Lewis. You're thinking about Joe Frazier because we've been watching...
Yeah, we're watching Muhammad Ali interviews. He won't shut up about how much better he is than Joe Frazier.
I'm sure it was a big deal to him. He's pretty good, but he's no Joe Frazier. That boxer over there? Is he Booze? He quickly found his gimmick in character actor roles, playing boxers or comic thugs. Punch Drunk, who would say "dees" and "dem" and "does," as in, "those aren't the boys the boss is looking for. It's dem guys, those ones." He really laid into a New York accent. Apparently, after he got that role in Nothing Sacred, Jack Warner had him sign a contract for his studio. Slapsie Maxie saw this as his big break, and he started taking acting and diction lessons from Max Reinhardt, which is where he met Marlon Brando.
Oh, no.
Max would tell friends that Brando sounded just like him. So Max returns to Jack Warner after learning how to pronounce words and talk like a person, and 3 weeks later, Warner fired Max because that wasn't the real Maxie. I liked you when you were raw, but that's show business,
I liked you
baby.
when you were illiterate.
Show business, and Max is now in Angelino, living in historic Hollywood Plaza Hotel in Vine in Hollywood.
I thought you meant right now.
He's right now. He got me towed. I parked in front of his
He pulled the car himself. I'll take care of this.
Around 1937, it appears he tried to open up a nightclub cabaret deal. So after World War I, there was a steady migration of the city's Jewish community moving up the west side of town. Bob Schiller must have hated it. Yeah, Bob Schiller's like, where are they going?
Hey, everyone slow down.
Stop taking all that money.
Taking all that money that's in Boyle Heights.
Yeah, so they started moving to the Fairfax area. And at the time, there was 2 big Jewish-oriented comedy cabarets. There was Billy Gray's Bandbox, and there was Slapsie Maxie's at 7165.
He was Jewish? Yeah, he's from Jewish Harlem. Okay.
Yeah.
And his dad was like a rabbi or something.
No father figure present, which I didn't think about till right now.
Did he have a rabbi figure?
George Raff wasn't Jewish. No, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not here to cast aspersions. I think he was Catholic. I don't know. Is it booze?
That cross on his necklace, is that booze?
Does that just mean he went to Hooters?
Slapsie Maxie's nightclub was at 7165 Beverly Boulevard. Maxie owned this place, and which opened in November.
Where's that? That's in...
You'll find out.
Oh, no.
In November of 1937.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Our worried robot that sits next to us and never segments the sound. Oh, no. I calculate. Oh, no. There are a lot of varying stories about this particular spot, but I can't find a lot of stuff confirmed because, well, you'll find out. But it was noted as being a celebrity hotspot. In 1943, performance permits were denied by the police commission. Officers testified that show skits went beyond the limits of decency, whatever, probably butts or something. So Slapsie Maxie's closes after 6 years of operating, and its space later became the New Beverly Cinema.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
All is well because Slapsie Maxie moves from Beverly and La Brea to the Miracle Mile at the old Art Deco Wilshire Bowl location on Wilshire and Cochran, about half a mile away, or a mile and a half away, sorry. Now, this is the place that's truly renowned. So a lot of stories I read about Slapsie Maxie's, I didn't know which one it was, but if I trace it by years, it was most likely happened at this place. He'd get performances from Jackie Gleason and Spike Jonze, the comedy guy, director. I'm pretty sure this the...
Aren't they both kind of both?
They ride the line of being the same guy. Exact same guy. Yeah, old Spike Jonze did music videos with the Beastie Boys.
He also loved skateboarding.
Girl Skateboards Mouse is fantastic comedy skateboarding. Ollie!
My heart's doing an Ollie thinking about this.
Slapsie Maxie's was the LA debut of a comedy duo, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis.
Really?
Yeah. Martin and Lewis even cast Maxie in their role in Hollywood or Bust, which is a super great movie. I saw a screening of it at the New Beverly. Now, not only did Slapsie Maxie act, and not only did he open up nightclubs, and not only did he act and box
and open up nightclubs
and box and
act,
but apparently was a stand-up comedian, quotations.
Oh, no.
Although I'm sure in those days it meant a funny person on an elevated platform under lights. It's so vague what
I
they
think
meant.
funny is a strong statement.
He was at a.
Why do boxers think they're funny? Go on.
You think Muhammad Ali's pretty funny?
He is.
You've been
He
watching.
is quite funny, actually.
I keep saying you watching Jack Parr. You're not watching Jack Parr. You're watching the other guy.
Dick Cavett.
Dick Cavett.
Yeah,
You're
the
watching-
other forgotten talk show host.
Maxie was a stage comedy performer person. He had writers for sketches and gags, but he was very good apparently at ad-libbing too.
Ad-libbing?
Ad-libbing.
Well, for boxers, it is ad-libbing.
He was some interviewer's favorite person to talk to. He was very funny and clever on the spot. He really gave into that character of being like a dumb boxer, probably because...
Quite a character. He really
Wow.
lost himself in that role.
Try not to stray away too much from the character you've made. They would bait him with questions that almost demand funny answers. One article had examples like, which sweet thing would you want to marry? Or how much did you lose at the track? Like questions that would just
Which sweet thing would you want to marry?
I mean, Claire Bow, the it girl.
Which of these pieces of meat that walk and talk would you like to marry?
Maxie was sort of always that character, as we've said. But people loved that genuineness of it. He was a New York guy. He was a fish out of water, gambling and mingling.
Like a filter fish out of water.
I don't get that. Gambling and mingling.
By the way, that's going to be the name of my biography.
And you're pointing to like a priest, like white collar thing, and you're like doing the confused, like what?
I'm just a little gefilte fish in a big pond.
He was just like a New York guy here, gambling and mingling with movie stars and gangsters, and looking the part of an old boxer because he was an old boxer.
He must have loved Mickey Cohen. Uh-oh. Robot, be quiet.
Stop that. He had a comedy performance routine for a while with another actor boxer, Max Baer, and the two of them apparently would perform at the Florentine Gardens on
Why do
Hollywood
I know the
Boulevard.
name Max Baer?
Well, I'll tell you, every time my dad brings up Max Baer, he mentions his famous son. Max Baer was a famous boxer of his time. You might have heard of Max Baer before. Max Baer's son was Jethro in the Beverly Hillbillies, Max Baer Jr.
Oh my God, that's weird.
Every time my dad goes into an old boxing story, and he'll like lean in like, that's Jethro's dad.
That's Jethro's paw.
Now, the paw that you see in the TV screen is not his real paw. It's an actor.
Don't forget that, son.
If I teach you one thing in this life, is one thing, it is booze.
If
Second
you're
thing,
ever wondering.
it is booze. So in 1940, Slapsie Maxie was arrested in Hollywood, near his home, Hollywood and Vine. Under the police officer's report, it said, under observation on suspicion of bookmaking. Who else do you know that's a boxer and an actor and a gangster in Hollywood who likes bookmaking? Anyways, Slapsie Maxie claimed that he just picked a lottery ticket off the pavement, and as the officer approached. This is a coincidence. Also on the report, when they booked him, it lists his occupation as dancer, which is funny. Never forget your roots. Boxer, yes. Actor, comedian, yes. Ballerina, yes. But booking, no, Your Honor. His connection to crime people was suspected. By most accounts, Slapsie Maxie's nightclub was a bookmaking joint for gambling, baby, and, was a host for cops and judges on payroll. Many people say that Max was simply a front man for a Boyle Heights guy, Mickey Cohen.
I mean, it's inevitable. Like,
he ran the city. He ran all the bookie things.
If you're a Jewish guy involved in a career that is heavily tied to the gangsters and mafia, and there's a huge Jewish gangster in town, like why wouldn't you go to him?
And both of you are boxers, you're probably going to get along anyways.
Yeah.
Cohen was making like $160,000 a month from this operation and feeding it into Max's nightclub. Funny enough, I also read that Mickey Cohen ran another entertainment spot, was the Bandbox, which was the other Jewish-oriented cabaret near Fairfax. 1940s LAPD, I won't get into this as much because I'll be covering 20 to 30, but anyways, 1940s LAPD, also not great. Is there anything you couldn't pay him to do or not to do? I love double negatives. Anyways, you couldn't pay to not or do.
Make it any clearer.
Anyways, the nightclub closes in 1950. It was replicated in Gangster Squad, which I don't know if I've mentioned on this podcast how much I hated.
I'm sure you have.
Maxie continued getting small roles throughout the era of TV and movies. He had a small part in Rod Serling's Requiem for a Heavyweight from Playhouse 90. Sometime in the 1940s, he started a softball league at Gilmore Field. The team was called the Rosenbloom Ragamuffs, and at first base was Jerry Lewis.
Oh my God.
I read that an offshoot of this league continues to play Sunday mornings at West Hollywood Park. But after the nightclub closed and roles dried up, it wasn't very pretty for him. He got a bit role on TV playing an assistant named Clyde on the Joe Palooka show. In 1961, this is where I get sad, Max set up a fake mugging to get his name in the papers again. He reported that a man tried to kill him by firing a shotgun through his door, then disappeared. And apparently in 1968, while leaving his place, he was actually mugged and hit pretty hard on the head with a pipe, which is straight out of a cartoon.
And he woke up and he thought he was Joe Frazier.
He spoke French and stuff. Unlike a cartoon, it took a very long time to recover, and it was kind of all downhill from there. He had a caretaker for a while, but when that cleared up, he became a resident of the Braywood Sanitarium in South Pasadena after, you could only take so many blows to the head.
Yeah, it was the final blow.
It was the final blow. It sounds like a hospice, also sounds like a sanitarium, where sometimes friends and family would visit, but then not all the time. In 1972, the Boxing Hall of Fame, I put put Boxing Hall of Fame. Inducted
The Boxing Hall of Fame.
In 1972, he was inducted into that. And in 1976, actor, comedian, boxer, ballerina, and nightclub owner died at the age of 71 years old. 289 fights, 98 films, and through all of it would not surrender to being a Californian. Always a New Yorker. Never learned how to drive. Had all his friends and chauffeurs driving between racetracks. And that's what it's like to refuse to sell it to LA. That is exactly what it's like.
Never once ate an orange.